Hey, what is up all you toy fanatics, and welcome back to El Chisel Reviews. It's been a long time, hasn't it? How's your family? That's nice. Anyway, today we are looking at the Combiner Wars breakdown, from the Stunticon team. And before we begin, I want to say that I'm not sure if I'm going to be getting the other Stunticons just yet, because for the purpose of this review, I want to show you guys how a Combiner Wars figure does the standalone figure. But that doesn't rule out a full Menasor review in the future. We'll have to see. Now that we have that out of the way, let's take a look at the figure itself. This is Breakdown, sort of the scout of the Stunticons. And he is an awesome figure. Oh, hold on, gotta move something. Slide that back in the way for your sake. Fix the lighting. I am sorry, it's just been a while and I'm all rusty at this. Okay, where was I? Scout of the Stunticons, yes, an awesome figure. His vehicle mode is mostly white with some sparse paint apps across the body. The windows are in black with this 15 Racing logo across the windshield here. You see, that seems dangerous to me. I mean, anyone who's watched Talladega Nights knows that you don't sell your windshield. Alright. But you do have the hood painted in red, with the Decepticon logo bordered in, well, I don't know if the camera will pick it up. Hold on. Come on, autofocus. There you are. That's actually a really nice silver. Now that I look at it through the lens, there's actually a bit of a metal flake finish to that red paint now, isn't it? That's really nice. And then you've got these, which I can only assume are headlights, which are picked out in silver. And the running board here is painted in a navy blue, which offsets the white really well. As far as molding goes, though, there's really not much to speak of. I mean, you've got what honestly reminds me of a Camaro T-top. But it doesn't look like a Camaro. At least none that I have seen in person. But, the reason there's not a lot of molding is it's meant to be a sports car. It's slick and dynamic. The wheels are pegged in. They don't seem to be pinned, they seem to be pegged, and that's just my guess from the way they roll. Not terribly well. It rolls, that's the point. But just not a lot. But other than that, there's not much to this mode until you get to the accessories. He comes with the typical Combiner Wars limb, gun, hand, foot thingy. Something I can only guess is a shotgun nightstick sword. When it comes to the purple doohickey here, you've got a few options. Using the joint peg right here, you can mount it on this port. But that doesn't look right, does it? It's like you're trying to turn a Camaro into a tank. And who would want that? And although I imagine there are a few of you out there who are just looking at me like I'm an idiot for saying that. But if you look on the back of the spoiler here, let me get it up to the point where it will autofocus. Come on. There we go. You see that slot right there? Well, if you open the thumb heel spur on the doohickey here, there's a proper name for this, and one of you is going to have to tell me. You have this little slot here because of this peg on the thumb right there. And what you can do if I can show you guys, this will actually fit into that slot right there. And now, kind of looks like a DeLorean, doesn't it? You know, like from Back to the Future? Great Scott breakdown! We have to go back to Gen 1! Wait, no. Anywho, I do like that. As far as the sword goes, in either form, if you're going to store both of them, you've only really got one option, and that's the port on the bumper, which is going to be used again later for something else. And you can either stick it up like that, or if you're going to store it DeLorean style, you've got to store the sword like that. And that is weird to me, unless he's going to go Tokyo Drift and kind of cut you off at the knees. It really doesn't work. But with that out of the way, let's transform into robot mode, shall we? Now, it comes in robot mode, a little mistransformed, and I'll show you that later. But it is easier to figure this out when you work backwards. First thing you want to do is fold that bumper back. And this is just how I did it, based off of the instructions. Then you kind of want to grab the whole front end of the... Well, before you do that, you want to see that bumper there. See that seam line? Come on, pick it up. Right there, if you want to have something to get under there. Because the whole windshield, if I can get it, has to come up. You know, it only just strikes me now that this is very odd. I suppose it doesn't matter, though, for the sake of the transformation. I mean, at this point in the Combiner Wars, they're all on a Cybertron anyway. It's not like they're going to have people riding in them. Anyway, you grab the whole front of the car, hood and all, and you snap it. And that'll fold back out of the way, revealing the giant purple combiner port. Then you want to grab this bottom half down here on one side and kind of wiggle it loose. Now, I need to mention now, this is going to be the leg, obviously. There is a double hinge in there, as you can see right along there. And it's difficult to kind of finagle it in order to get it into the position you want it. So what I found is after you break it loose, extend it all the way down. Hold on, we should probably break the thighs apart too. And getting it back up is really the difficult part into that folded mode. Luckily, we only have to do that for car mode and leg mode. So, you have to make sure it fits in there snugly, and you'll feel it. You won't hear it, but you'll feel it. At least on this side. And we'll rinse and repeat on the other side. It's a lot easier now that it's not pegged into the other half. Now this side, sorry, bumped my camera, is the really difficult part because that was the first time it did it so easily. Now that it's on camera, you're going to cooperate with me, huh? Thanks a lot. I've had troubles before getting that to snap into place, and I don't know what it is. Then we take these, and we will fold those down. You want to kind of push until it frictions into place, and I will explain that when we're in robot mode. Then we grab these here, which are obviously robot hands, fold them down like so. Then we come back here again. I fold it up for this bit. And there's a series of hinges. You got a double hinge right here and another double hinge right here. So I guess you call it a quadruple hinge. But you also got this hinge right here. And what you want to do is make sure that this hinge here is at something of a 90-degree angle, which will take about 2 clicks. Then snap this middle hinge here into place. Then, now this is important, there are these 2 slots, and they don't show you this in the instructions. The instructions are actually very vague. I had to figure most of this out. They tab onto these little tabs right here on either side of the combiner peg. So you got to make sure you line them up. Sorry, I'm not able to show this on camera. And you do have to fiddle with the hinges a little bit, so there's really no system to it, as far as I've found. You just kind of have to screw with it until these panels line up. And I swear to God, this is not a detriment to the toy. Once you've played with it for a little while, you kind of figure it out. And it's not really something that can be shown. Then we take the arms here, and you see these little tabs are going to fall right into that slot. And you know you've got the head in the right place when they do. It's a little stiff, but I find if you just get your thumb up under there, you'll have a sore thumb and the arm in the right place. And that actually creates that cool little shoulder spur thing right there. That's up in place. We turn it around, and let's get him set up. Let me raise the camera a little bit. And here we have Breakdown. Now, before we do reviews on his articulation and paint apps, I want to say, this is how he looks in the instructions, but in the box, he is shown like that. I don't know why. I imagine it was just because they had space restrictions, but it seems to me that maybe someone got confused. Either way, now that we have it in robot mode, as you can see, we have a lot more of that navy blue from the running boards earlier. One thing I need to mention, though, is that Breakdown does something that I've not seen in a lot of Combiner Wars figures. At least not the better chunk of the line that I've had personal experience with. He actually conceals his combiner peg behind a chest plate, which I find is really nice. I was looking at the Combiner Wars figures, I was actually kind of getting annoyed at the exposed combiner peg. I mean, it's not like it breaks up the look of the robot or anything, and they do a good job of making it look like it's part of the robot, but I don't know, it's just like, once you've held one Combiner Wars limb figure, you kind of know what to look for, and it kind of breaks the illusion. But I gotta say, I really like what Breakdown does here. As you can see, his torso, for the most part, excepting that tiny little combiner port peg glimpse down there, is cast mostly in navy blue with some very nice silver. It's not the best I've seen, but I gotta say it's not the worst either. Hasbro really knows what they're doing with that. The limbs are still cast in that white plastic, which we saw in the vehicle mode, making the torso kind of pop, or rather the limbs kind of pop against the torso, making a very nice contrast. The head sculpt is really nice too. Let's just get his face turned into the light here. Sorry, buddy, gotta blind you. If I can get the light to show in his eyes, I can... It doesn't matter, well, his eyes are gray, so there's really not much to miss there, but his head sculpt is really nice, although it is fairly standard. He's got that kind of boxy helmet look that a lot of Decepticons seem to have. And actually, his face is painted the same red as the hood of the car. As a matter of fact, his face is under the red hood, you might say. Damn it, Chaz, you even wrote in the script that you didn't want to mention the Batman jokes. I apologize, people. I am just horrible. As far as articulation goes, he doesn't slouch. He's got a ball-jointed head. Although because of his boxy helmet, it doesn't really get a lot of waggle back and forth or front and back. You got a little bit, enough for some minor expressions, but mostly it's just there to turn. He does have ball joints in his shoulders, which they're nice and tight too, so they hold a pose really well. And he's got ball joints in his elbows, so you kind of get a forearm swivel out of that as well. It's a nice deep cut, so you get about 90 degrees bend. No wrist swivel, but, you know, given the fact that in order to transform with as few creases as possible, or seams rather, I think we'll forgive him for that. He's got ball-jointed hips, which really don't lock in place, because when you're transforming him, they're split like that. I don't know why, but that always annoyed me, where you have to fiddle with the hips or the waist in order to get it to kind of stay in place or where it's supposed to look good. There's no clip or tab to lock them in place, so if you shake him, they kind of fall down like that, making him look a little taller. But you know, you want him to look kind of short. He's supposed to be this kind of scrawny little paranoid guy. But yeah, ball joints in the hips. Again, once a nice wide cut, so you get pretty good range. He's got a hinged knee with about 90 degrees of bend, almost 90 degrees anyway. It's still fairly good. And if you really want to get interesting, because of his transformation, he's got posable heels and toes. The toes don't go down, but they do go up. But just make sure that his right leg is back. If you're gonna, his right leg is the one you're posing the toe on. Because at least on mine, this toe is a lot tighter than this one. I had to push. This is the one I mentioned earlier. I had to push down to get it to lock, to kind of friction in place, because after that, it's really loose. I'm not really sure why that is, and I don't know if it's on all of them. So it's probably just a quality control issue. But now that we've basically covered his robot mode, I mean, if you want, we can show you what it's like with his accessories, because you see he has this port right there on his back, and if we fold up the doohickey, and you can sort of plug that right in there like that. And actually, that's how he looks on the front of the comic book that comes with the toy. I'm not going to show the comic book because this is not a comic review, this is a toy review. But, so yeah, there's a bit of accuracy there, or rather they maybe just printed it so that this would make sense. But because of that transformation hinge, he's got, you know, some poseable, like he's aiming, some pose ability right there, like he's aiming at something. The wheels are right there, so it almost makes it look like it's part of the cannon. As far as the sword goes, really you've got two options, you know, right hand, left hand. Well, four options really, I guess, if you want it. Right hand, left hand, sword, and I don't know, it just looks like a shotgun to me. I don't know what it is. Wiggle that out. Wiggle that out. Now we've got that done, let's take him into leg mode first for his limb, because that's the limb he appears as on the box and in the instructions. He is the right leg of Menasor in all the depictions in the instructions. He can turn into an arm, obviously, but we'll just go with what apparently the packagers, the people who manage packaging, want him to look like. What we're going to do then is kind of reverse transform him back into car mode, basically, where we bring his arms down by folding them up and kind of angling them halfway. Then we reach into his torso and snap that loose, turn his head around for clearance, and we fold this out, and it's going to be kind of tricky because, like I said, there's a lot of hinges here. It's almost like a shell former in this stage, but, you know, it's actually well engineered. It fits quite nicely. And that tabs in there. We fold that down. We fold the arms down. We pull the hips out and kind of hope they stick together, and we can kind of ensure that they will by pegging the knees together at this navy blue part right here. And I should probably show you guys a little bit better. There's a peg and a slot there, peg and a slot there, and you just kind of have to, there's really no good way for me to show you this, you just kind of have to sandwich them together, and you'll just kind of feel it click. And I'll have to consult the instructions here real quick, because there's two ports back here. You've got the one in the feet, and I can never remember which one it is. And apparently for leg mode, it's, yeah, toes up in leg mode. Okay, I'm sorry, but you know, that's why I had the instructions handy. Then you take his combiner port, and you hear that? That's a good ratchet. Stick that up like that. And technically, you're supposed to... Oh, I screwed up here. I skipped a step. I apologize, people. It's been a long time. Please bear with me. You pretty much have to take them almost all the way back into car mode. So you plug his shins back into his elbows, which sounds weirder than it is. And you gotta break that free. Like I said, double hinge. It's a little stiffer on the top on that hinge than it is on the bottom. And when you're doing that, there is a slot back there that you have to guide this peg into. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the viewfinder right now because it's very difficult to do this through a viewfinder. You gotta kind of make sure that everything lines up, which means you gotta make sure the knees line up with each other. So remember how I said we kind of have to sandwich them together before? Yeah, that helps this a lot. And from there you can kind of guide the other part of the shin in. There we go. And now we've got that combiner port there. Sorry about that jump cut, I dropped my camera. And from there, we've got all this exposed. And we just kind of shove the foot in there. At least that's what they tell me they want. For some reason, though, I should probably mention, on mine, it's kind of, the tabs here are kind of tight. They want to push each other apart. I may take an X-Acto knife later and shave down the peg just a smidge, but we'll have to see if I can just figure out if they just need to be worn down or not. So yeah, they say they want toes up, and they want they want the heel spur out, so that the toe fits in like this. But it does not fit that way. So what you have to do is fold the toes down anyway. Yeah, it seems kind of ridiculous that they've even put it in the instructions. And supposedly, it's supposed to sit stably like that. But you know, you do see a lot of the robot in here. And if you don't like the way that looks, there's really nothing stopping you from just taking the foot here, turning it around, and then doing that. And from there, look, you've got a knee with friggin' hopefully 90 degrees. Like I said, I don't have the rest of Minosaur, so I can't tell you. And it's got a little knee pad right there. So honestly, I think the instructions were a little confused. But this is the way I would use it as a leg. It just looks smoother that way. But you can use it any way you want. There's really nothing stopping you. And yeah, from that, it's really just no big hassle to take it into arm mode. So what we'll do is we will unpeg it, and bring it back down. Sandwich it together. This goes like that. And because of the hand, foot, gun's thumb placement, and you are going to want some kind of a nail or something to pry these fingers out, you just fold it like that, and look, there's a little hole for the hand. And the thumb is hinged both ways, so you can be a righty or a lefty. For the sake of our purposes, we'll make him a righty, since he's the right leg as well. But it's no big deal, just turn the thumb the other way. And there you have it. Really not much else to go on. I personally try to do this because he's got more of an elbow. Again, that is optional because of this. That is an option because of his waist joint here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's got 90 degrees bend, big purple hand thing, and if you want, he can even take the shotgun sword nightstick and hold it like a little Rambo knife. Yeah. Now, all in all, he's actually great as a standalone figure. As part of a set, we'll have to see. This review, really the whole purpose of it was basically to tell you guys not to feel pressured to commit to spending, well, I bought this guy for around 14 bucks, so we'll call it $70 for the whole set. It's plenty fun with just one. And yeah, if you're looking to pick up a actually decent transformer that doesn't require you to learn origami to play with it, yeah, go pick one of these guys up. Remember to like and comment. This has been El Chizzo with El Chizzo Reviews, and I am signing off.